I rise today to offer House Resolution 364, designating HVC 215 of the Capitol Visitor Center as the Gabrielle Zimmerman Meeting Room. On January 8th in Tucson, Arizona, tragedy struck this country in a shooting that shocked our nation and tore through the fabric of the congressional community. 6 people died that horrific day, including Gabrielle Zimmerman, a congressional staffer for our friend and colleague, Representative Gabrielle Giffords of Arizona's 8th Congressional District. Now, less than a year after this horrible day, it is fitting that the United States House of Representatives, through passage of this resolution, properly honor the sacrifice and service of one of our own.
He cared for his community. He cared for his country. Gabe was a passionate advocate for children, for social justice, for anti-racism. And Gabe didn't wear the uniform of a soldier or a police officer, but he did give his life while serving his country.
Gabe Zimmerman, a young man, a passionate, idealistic 30-year-old man, engaged to be married to his beloved Kelly, lost his life.
Gabe was in the line of fire. He didn't run. He made the ultimate sacrifice, became the first congressional staffer to give his life in the line of duty.
An attack on one who serves is an attack on all who serve. This House responded in prayer and solidarity, reminding the world that no act of violence could silence the sacred dialogue of democracy.
All the nation watched and prayed. Today, in permanently naming a room in the Capitol complex after Gabe, we honor his life. As Gabe's mother, Emily Nottingham, said, it's not Gabe's death, but his work and his ideals that should be recognized here.
The bill commemorates an unprecedented act, the sacrifice of life of the staffer of one of our members.
And as we recover from that trauma, led by the courage and strength of Congresswoman Giffords, this moment is an important moment as we commemorate, sacrifice, and honor the service of Gabe Zimmerman.
As a member of Congress, each of us consider our staff more than employees. We work with them. They represent our districts. But they are part of our team. They're part of our family. And they're also the voice, the eyes and ears in our communities. They solve problems, and they work very long hours. Often, and I particularly feel bad about this, we often forget to say thank you to those staffers. Today we say thank you to Gabrielle Zimmerman, who is truly one of these dedicated staffers. He had a great reputation of being one of the most caring individuals you could possibly ever meet. And after receiving his master's degree at Arizona State University, a fine institution, he chose to give back to Arizona and give back to the community in southern Arizona, making our state a better place.
Gabe Zimmerman began his congressional career in 2007 as a constituent service supervisor for then newly elected Congresswoman Giffords. He was later promoted to the Director of Community Outreach, where he organized hundreds of events to coordinate outreach to constituents.
Gabe was perfectly suited for this position, as anyone who knew him would tell you. That's because working as a community outreach director married 2 great passions in his life: his drive to help individuals and a firm conviction that America's government needed to be open, accessible, and responsive to every American. This resolution designating the Gabrielle Zimmerman Meeting Room is not put forward to mark Gabe's death, but rather to recognize his commitment in life and to making others' lives better. Ask those who knew him, and they will tell you that Gabe had a way about him that invited conversation. He could walk into any room and find a way to connect to people. Gabe would often put in extra hours and was known to pay out of his own pocket for poorer constituents' bus fare, whatever he could do to help that little extra amount.
Both a devoted congressional aide and a community leader, Gabe served Congresswoman Gabby Giffords' district with a smile and a willingness to go above and beyond in assisting both his office and his fellow citizens. With an extroverted personality and a deep concern for others' well-being, Congresswoman Giffords has noted that Zimmerman became the go-to person for constituents in the district. He was what you call back home good people. We can all appreciate and learn from Gabe that representing our citizens means going beyond what is asked of us to assist them.
Gabe's ideals were rooted in service. He had worked, as has been mentioned, as a social worker, assisting troubled youth, served on the boards of several community organizations in Tucson, and tirelessly assisted the constituents of Congresswoman Giffords. The work that he did made a difference to veterans seeking the benefits they were owed, to families facing foreclosures, to seniors who had lost their Social Security checks.
Gabe Zimmerman dedicated his life to public service, and he died dedicating his life to public service. He died from an assassin's bullet in January of this year, hosting a Congress on Your Corner event for Gabby Giffords, which he organized. There are many men and women just like Gabe Zimmerman who come to work every day and work in Congress. These staffers work very long hours, sometimes late into the night. They work weekends. They deal with people from our districts, and sometimes they get little or no appreciation for their hard work.
Gabe Zimmerman was one of those passionate and dedicated staffers who loved his job, who loved his fellow staffers, and who loved his Congresswoman. Gabe Zimmerman was a bridge between the Congresswoman and individuals and constituent groups in her district, fostering and expanding each day the most important relationships a member of Congress maintains with their constituents, with the people who have entrusted them with the responsibility of representing them in this great body. Gabe Zimmerman was the first congressional staffer, as has been said a number of times, in history to lose his life in the line of duty in 222 years of history of this body.
The loss of Gabe Zimmerman affected this body deeply. We all know staffers like Gabe, tireless public servants who work long hours and weekends for modest pay. Congressional office wouldn't be able to function without people like Gabe, and yet they rarely receive the credit they deserve. Shortly after the shooting, Gabe's friend CJ told the Los Angeles Times about a visit he and Gabe made to the Lincoln Memorial. He said, quote, "When we went to the Lincoln Memorial, the wind whipped through the place and it was freezing cold, but Gabe had to read every single word of the Gettysburg Address. He put his all into his work. He put his all into his life," end quote. Madam Speaker, Gabe's life was cut too short, but his life will be forever honored. And years from now, when young interns and staffers visit HVC 215, they will be reminded by Gabe Zimmerman's story of his passion, his service to his state and country, and the example that he set.
I can think of nobody who better personified the idea of public service than Gabe Zimmerman. You know, a lot of people get involved in politics for a lot of different reasons, but I think that the base reason that we all should want to be involved in it is to represent people. And when you read the stories about Gabe and the service that he did, even before he worked for Congresswoman Giffords, you can see someone who truly understood what it meant to be a representative. Gabe made so much of his life about caring for other people, and there can be no higher calling. And in naming this room after him, we have a permanent reminder to everybody who comes through this Capitol about what this place is all about. It's about serving other people. It's about public service. And on the base fundamental level, Gabe understood that to do his job right, to represent his district, to represent this country, he needed to make sure that everybody in his district believed that they had a voice in Congress. And that's not an easy thing to do. We represent, around 700,000 people, but there was nobody who Gabe wouldn't reach out to and listen to. And I have no doubt that there are thousands, if not tens of thousands of people who have a better appreciation, who believe more in their government because of the work that Gabe Zimmerman did. And that's something that we need to be permanently reminded of. By naming this room after him, we will offer that opportunity to everybody who comes through this Capitol. And I also think it is reflective on Congresswoman Giffords as well. Gabe worked for Gabby because he believed in her and believed in what she was doing. And she, too, personifies that notion that we're here to represent people, all of them, whether we agree with them or not. It's not just a matter of taking the ones we agree with and fighting for them. You have to fight almost extra hard for the ones that maybe you don't agree with, because that's what makes representative democracy work, believing in this country. And Congresswoman Giffords and her staff do that as well as any group of people that I've ever encountered. And it's fitting that we honor Gabe. We offer our condolences to his parents for the encouragement that he has personified what this institution is all about, and we will never forget that.
I never met Gabe. I did have the privilege to meet his lovely, precious family, and it was clear to me that everyone who knew Gabe loved him. If they knew him well, they loved him more. His selfless spirit of service is an inspiration to all of us, and it's also a reminder of how short our time here may be. And so, Madam Chairman, I just want to suggest to you that everyone in this place should embrace this bill, because it is a testament to the noble dedication of a young congressional staffer who lost his life in the service of his country.
I was fortunate enough to be in Tucson just a few hours after the shooting, and was with those assembled at the hospital with friends and community activists and others when it was confirmed that Gabe Zimmerman had lost his life. I wish all that are within the sound of my voice today could feel in that room and that day and in the days that followed the love that was felt for this good man, for the work that he did for our colleague, for how much he is loved throughout the state of Arizona. The state of Arizona will not forget what he has done, and with this resolution today, with this naming, we ensure that this institution does not forget Gabe as well.
And today we honored Gabriel's talents, the compassion, and the wonderful things he did for Arizona, for Southern Arizona, for the community. And naming something as simple as a room will never be enough for his sacrifice, but it is the right thing to do for Gabe, for the things he did for Arizona, the things he did for Tucson, and also for this congressional family. And think about this. 100 years from now, there'll be a young staffer getting their first tour of this body, this building, and they're going to, during that tour, come across the Gabrielle Zimmerman room. And when they read about it, they're going to understand the sacrifice that he gave, just like so many members here give. But Gabriel gave the ultimate sacrifice, his love and his talent for this body and for this family.
Tragically, this loyal, determined, and talented public servant, someone who was a true apostle of our representative democracy, unknowingly also made the ultimate sacrifice for his country. Gabe Zimmerman is the first congressional staffer in the history of this institution to be killed while carrying out his official duties. It is in this historical and hallowed moment that we vote on this resolution to name known as HVC 215, the Gabrielle Zimmerman Room. As those of us who work on the Hill know well, HVC 215 is frequently used for staff meetings of every variety. I can think of no better way to memorialize Gabe's service and ultimate sacrifice than to have this meeting place forever carry his name and memory.
May Gabe rest in peace, and may we continue to give thanks and gratitude to the public servants who give quality to our life.
Let us honor Gabe's memory by following his example of service to this institution, which remains the direct voice of the American people and their will. So later today, I would ask the House to support the resolution.
This is a very challenging and difficult time for our nation, Madam Speaker. You know, it's my hope that, that as hard as it is, and as hard as it has become for us to engage in civil discourse, that we really all redouble our efforts, as we have all publicly stated that we're willing and interested in doing, myself included, to make sure that we can earn the respect and earn every day the privilege that our constituents have given us to represent them here in our nation's capital. And in doing so, we will honor Gabe's memory, honor the service of our colleague and friend Gabrielle Giffords, and know that Gabrielle Zimmerman did not die in vain.